Oh, okay. I guess we're starting now.
Yep.
Okay. We're only gonna do 3 this week, because only 3 came out.
And we're busy, too.
Well, there's... Not really. That takes, like... Not long. Obviously, you're getting one more list, but... That takes you longer, but...
Thanks.
It happens. So, we're gonna start with Minions. Which starts exactly like you think it would. And I don't think that's necessarily a compliment. Obviously, the company is Universal. So, without me really saying anything, just take a stab, just right now, what you think the very first thing that you hear in the movie is. And there's a really good chance that you're thinking of the right thing.
Yeah.
And it was at this point where I thought, because I was gonna give this the benefit of the doubt because of how Penguins of Madagascar turned out. It's basically the same concept. You take the little breakthrough characters that did their thing, and everybody was like, "Oh, that was totally the best part," even though they're totally not the best part of Despicable Me. But that's beside the point. I was going to give it the benefit of the doubt because, while Penguins of Madagascar is not a great movie or anything, I thought it was really funny. And surprisingly well done for what it was. So, I didn't, go in hating this or anything. I didn't really come out of it hating it either. Kind of. But, there's the, I guess I'll go ahead and tell you. Yeah, it's the fucking Minions doing the Universal theme, and it's as shrill and hard to withstand as you would probably imagine. Because I know everybody loved that first teaser for Despicable Me 2 when it was just them fucking singing to the camera. I know everybody just loved that so much.
I relived that the other day, actually.
Why?
Because someone was playing it at the theater. It was one of the Dub Smash videos to that.
Okay. So, what happens here is it's an origin story. And what the thing about it is, Jeffrey Rush is the narrator, which I guess gives it a little prestige, just a little bit. And the thing about it is, he says, the whole reason for this movie is because of one of the first lines that Jeffrey Rush says in his narration, which was, he's basically saying, "Hey, you remember the Minions, don't you? Did you ever wonder where they came from?" Well, we do kind of get their... yeah, we kind of get... we see exactly how they came to be, but even so, it still kind of feels like the question wasn't really answered. Because they're just... apparently they're immortal.
Yeah.
Which is weird and kind of creepy. And we see them go through the whole prehistoric phase until they end up in the 60s, which for some reason is where it decides to stop and take place. It's 1968, apparently. I'm really not quite sure what the point of that was, except for, to make jokes for the period for some reason, because that's something people do in comedies now, and I don't... It's been a little while now. It goes back as far as, The Wedding Singer being set in 1985 for no goddamn reason. But it allowed them to make jokes from that, so whatever you want to do. And we see them going through I hate to remind people of this because I know how much they hate the movie, but we basically get the same opening montage we got for X-Men Origins. Remember Hugh Jackman and Leo Schreiber going through all the wars and shit? Yep. That's basically what we get. Now, I gotta say something here that I hope is not too controversial, because it's just kind of a throwaway thing. It's just a thought that went through my head. It's not, it's really not a big deal, but come on. We're watching the Minions go through time, and the thing is they're looking for somebody to follow. They're looking for somebody to be their master and, tell them what to do, because they're Minions, that's their thing. So, we see them, they try to be the minions of a dinosaur, and they accidentally fucking throw him into a volcano. And they go through really big events in history, looking for somebody to rule them. Now, obviously this is not that kind of movie, okay? Mm-hmm. Clearly. This is meant for children and for families to go and be happy and shit. So I knew this wasn't going to be a thing, but I couldn't help but just get it in my head. There's one piece of history where a big group of people looking to do nothing but be ruled and told what to do by one leader. Do you think that joke would have been too controversial? I think you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Just a tad.
Okay. There's one, see, this would have been like the 40s.
Yeah.
And we went to at least the 60s, so there was a big gap in time there where they were like in like the 17th century and shit, and then we just kind of jumped forward.
If they went forward, they could have done Minions in black and white animation for that.
I was gonna say, at the very least, maybe like, hint at it just very, very slightly, but that's really, really touchy ground, especially in Hollywood, so you can't do that.
In an animated movie, especially.
But we're not. Come on, the hyenas in The Lion King. That's what they were.
I know.
When they were marching and shit. Yeah, you totally get what I'm talking about now if you didn't before.
Black and white animated footage.
But anyway, let's kind of keep going before we get in trouble. So eventually, there's like a few seconds where the movie turns into Unbroken.
Yeah.
And it's the three of them on the raft. I have no idea if that was like an intentional reference or not. I would think this was being made around the time Unbroken would have like come out, so it's probably just a coincidence. But it looked a lot like a direct reference when they're there wearing their Bane coats. Did you?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, so anyway, as you know, the plot is they eventually go to VillainCon. After this humorous scene with Michael Keaton and I think Allison Janney was the white voice.
Correct.
The whole them being a family of robbers thing, I like the way that was revealed. I honestly didn't see it coming either. And it totally is a perfectly good explanation as to how they ended up at VillainCon, which I'm sure may have been a question you had. Where they meet Sandra Bullock, who is Scarlet Overkill. Okay, here's the thing, this is basically what we're setting up. This is like our first real big villain that the Minions have come in contact with. And she is our big, antagonist, I guess, in a way, mostly, throughout this movie. And the one thing that was kind of bugging me was the way they built it up. This is a movie that has an event in it called VillainCon.
Yeah.
Where we kind of set up a whole kind of, a buffet of ideas that could be had here.
Oh, yeah.
And you make this one big standout villain that is kind of where the movie takes us. And this may be a nitpick, I don't know, but it's just as far as looking for creativity in this, because basically you go into this movie trying to figure out how it's not just a big money grab.
Yeah.
So you are introduced to this villain who is the ultimate villain at an event called VillainCon. Let's rewind and look at Gru. Gru had this really distinct look about him, and just a look that kind of showed you, just by looking at him, you could tell the kind of character that he was. And it was really distinguished, and you can, really, really point him out. There is not a lot to Scarlet Overkill. She wears a red dress.
Mm-hmm.
The end. That's about... And her dress kind of also doubles as a way for her to fly around. And that is it. That's what she does.
Princess Peach from Super Mario 2.
And I wasn't quite getting how this person, of all the ideas they could have come up with, is like the ultimate villain that everybody wants. The girl even says, if I was a minion, that's who I would work for. That, I'm not getting that vibe from Scarlet Overkill when I just look at this generic character that wears a red dress and says that she steals shit.
Did you see Dr. Nefario?
I did not.
He's in the background of VillainCon.
That's of course. Yeah, this could have really used... But I did like the Steve Coogan scene with the professors that time travel.
Yes.
That was funny. Now, the thing about that is what I was talking about with, you gotta kind of look for if this is more than just, Universal wanting money. Because that's what it screams, of course. Because, basically, when you look at the two Despicable Me movies, the thing about it is you can kind of tell that the Minions were pretty much manufactured to be that. They're going to be the poster child. They're going to be to use a cliche, put on lunchboxes and backpacks and shit.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what they were made to do.
Oh, yeah.
So to give them an entire movie just kind of, screams that. So the thing about it is you look at the best thing to do, I would think, was compare them to the Penguins. I know it's...
Seriously, they really are.
Because here, look at this. Not only is it just both the side characters spinning off into their own movies thing, but you have 3 Minions and you have 4 Penguins, but it's still kind of the same thing. You have the one who is basically the self-appointed leader. You have I don't remember the names of the Penguins, but in this case, the Minion is Kevin. Mm-hmm. He's like the tall one. And then you have the short cute one. That's the one they adopted at the beginning of Penguins, and it's Bob in this one. Mm. And then you just kind of have that middle one that doesn't do a whole lot. That's here, so you have more than 2. There's 2 of the Penguins like that, and then there's I don't even remember the Stuart. Stuart is his name.
And the Minions are designed to be like Drew's daughters.
Huh?
Yeah, in this movie they were designed after who Drew's daughters end up being. Drew.
Who is
Drew? Good God, it's been a long day. Drew's daughters, Agnes, Margot, and Edith. They're basically the same concept because you notice they're about the same because you have the teddy bear and everything fits. I don't know why I said Drew, but it's Drew.
That really threw me off.
Yeah, I know.
Is that intentional?
Yes, absolutely intentional. Okay. It's in the trivia.
Alright. I didn't really get that. I was totally getting a Penguins vibe a lot more than that.
No, I got the Penguins vibe too, without a doubt.
Now, the thing about it is, there's a lot kind of going against this. Because you can tell that there's not really... I really, really wanted to feel like this was going to be... They were really trying to actually do something with it and not just get kids to go see a movie that has those characters in it just doing whatever the fuck for an hour and a half. There is a story there, but it's really, really basic, not to mention unoriginal, and they don't... It does not really do anything. It doesn't really branch off into anything kind of bigger than what it is. It's just this really, really straightforward story that they're just kind of doing so that we can have a beginning, middle, and end, and then the credits can roll, and people will leave and their money will still be in the bank.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it was that's kind of, which is kind of particularly insulting in a way when you have the setup of VillainCon. Mm-hmm. Like, if you kind of took the concept of VillainCon and kind of took your story in that direction,
a whole movie could be made about it without a doubt.
You could, the movie could have not left VillainCon.
Yeah.
You could have done a lot of things. But once they decide that Scarlet is who they're going to stick with, they leave VillainCon, and then we get real basic shit for an hour. And then we're done. And we meet her husband named Herb.
Yes.
Who is John Hamm, who I am a fan of as an actor. Mm-hmm. But the issue here is, I don't know what this is. I don't know whether to blame John Hamm or the people that made it. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but as good of an actor as he is, in this particular role, he's one of those actors where it's clear that they had him, of all people, voice this character. so that they could put a lot of celebrity names on a cast list and get attention that way as well.
I could see that.
Because whenever John Hamm speaks, or whenever Herb Overkill speaks, number one, all I can fucking see is John Hamm in a sound booth.
Yep.
And number two, all I can see is John Hamm in a sound booth reading fucking lines and not giving a shit. And that's...
Christoph Waltz
that's
epic.
Not so... Well, he tried to at least put, like, inflections on shit. This... Every single time Herb talks, it's like John Hamm reading a line off a script directly.
John Hamm is bored.
And that's not really... That's not what you want. I don't have to tell you this. And you have... like, having Michael Keaton as the robber dad was a little, you know... It has you asking why. But, you know, I don't know. Whatever. But, what else do we have here? Another thing, another thing about them just kind of being a money machine and just kind of being, you know, they're out there to get the catchphrases going and to get kids to annoy the shit out of their parents. That's what Universal really, really wants. Well, another thing, if you want to talk self-marketing, it's kind of worth noting that the whole first half hour of the movie, which by the way is 1/3, the whole idea is to get to VillainCon. Well, take a wild fucking guess where VillainCon is.
Know it.
Yes, it just happens to be in Orlando. Which there is one funny visual gag really quickly where we see Orlando in all of its glory, but since it's 1968, we zoom out and we see that we're looking at a coming soon sign, and Orlando is just like fucking desert with a couple of buildings.
Yeah.
But still, the tie-in is a little too obvious. But you know, that's what you do when you're pretty much setting out to do nothing but make a lot of money. They do kind of... There is one scene that I thought was fine where they stray from the animation they're doing for when Scarlett's telling them the story. I thought that was kind of, I guess, cleverly done in a way. I don't really know another adjective to use, but then you have stuff in there that... This is another issue. When you kind of throw in the stuff that's, you know, for the adults, obviously, but it's so blatantly obvious, like them saying we have to throw stuff in there for the adults, that it just kind of, there's something transparent about it and makes it not as funny as they probably think it is. There's the Abbey Road thing.
I like that personally.
Well, good for you. The money machine's really loving your output.
Universal loves me anyway.
And the other thing was the fake moon landing.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to escape and they walk through the set where it's that urban legend that they got Stanley Kubrick to direct the moon landing shit that we saw, and it was just in some sound studio.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell. I didn't think to look until after it had already gone by, but I couldn't see if there was like a representative of Kubrick in animated form.
It went by too fast.
But none of that stuff really, like, instead of going, oh, they threw something clever and that's great, it felt more like me saying, oh, look, there's where they were trying to kind of do the, hey, let's throw something clever in thing. And that's pretty much it. There's a whole lot of running around, a lot of fucking montaging. Just them, and then we keep doing the thing where it's the three of them in Orlando, and then there's the rest of them making a journey to come and find them. And every time, it takes them a long time to go on this journey too. A lot of times we cut back to them, they're just fucking around. Because that's what they do. And that's what gets attention to them. And pretty much every time they would do that, it would just kind of stop everything. Not that this movie had a flow to begin with, but it just... there were so many times where they would just cut back to them, and once they continue on their journey, they really don't do anything with that. We just occasionally cut back to them, and they're just kind of walking in the snow and shit. And we know there's going to be a convergence at the very end, and that really just doesn't amount to anything. They just fucking show up, so the movie can end, I guess. And that's pretty much the whole thing. That's the whole fucking thing. That's the whole product. And that's exactly what it is. Something that is made to be sold. With one or two funny things in there. That aren't even really the things that they really, really wanted to get people with. Like the shit they thought they were being clever and sneaking in when it's so fucking blatantly there. Yes, that's what this movie is, and that's what a lot of parents are going to be looking forward to this weekend, and I'm sure they will love their bleeding ears so much.
We were walking out of the Gallows, and we were seeing people that were funneling into the mall in order to be able to go see the movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of bleeding ears,
it's
time for our second movie, which is The Gallows, obviously. Our new outing into found footage horror, my favorite fucking thing to review in the world. Which I'm sure you're all sick of by now because it's the same goddamn review for every single one of them because they all do the same goddamn shit.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, here's the thing. This is its immediate sin. Is we have a couple of things here that apparently, obviously I didn't like. I've been hearing some things about this. And the thing about it is, apparently there was a lot of ambiguity around the subject matter. A lot of people weren't sure if it was a found footage movie, and a lot of people weren't sure if Charlie was an actual person or a paranormal type deal.
Yeah.
Both of those ambiguities are put to rest immediately. Yes, it is a found footage movie, and yes, he's a fucking ghost. The very first thing we see is that infamous shot of they really tried to do the Cloverfield thing with this. There's a lot of fucking Cloverfield with how this movie was handled. The very first thing we see is the number and the label of this being police evidence and being property of the police department. And then the very first scare in the movie is a locker door opening by itself and then slamming. So, yes, it's a found footage movie and it's a fucking ghost. Congratulations, you probably know everything you need to know, and you probably don't give a shit anymore, if I had to guess. So, this is one of those times where I feel like this is not really going to go very smoothly. I just kind of have to tell you the shit that's dumb in it, and where they really, really fucked it up. And it's just going to kind of be a list of shit, and we'll just kind of go through it. Let's start. This is... I get so much fucking deja vu every time I do these goddamn things. But, as you can probably imagine before I say anything, yes, the first thing we're going to complain about is the fucking guy holding the camera. Because he is always the worst fucking person in these movies.
Yeah.
Always. Which I guess kind of makes sense, because he's got to be the biggest fucking jackass in the room to be the one that keeps taking a camera everywhere.
Yeah.
So it kind of somewhat stays in character, and that's why he's probably always the douchebag. But, yes. This is the guy, immediately, too. Like, this guy just fucking starts his bullshit right away. Yeah. He is so bad on his own to be hated by fucking everybody. But let me, we start... And he's sitting... Okay, this is how they explain it. It's always fun to see what bullshit excuse they're going to use as to why everybody's filming everything. They don't really do that this time. Nope. What happens is, the best explanation we get is, he's filming the play. That's what he's doing. But the trouble is this play is not happening. Okay? We're getting rehearsals. I guess filmed rehearsals are a thing. But still, that's that's all they use to explain it, is it's his job to record the play. The movie is 80 minutes. About 5 minutes of it is him actually filming the play.
Yeah.
Why he's still holding it? No. Don't give a fuck about explaining that. He just fucking does it so that the movie can happen. And at the end. Now, immediately, what happens here in this very first scene is we have... I can't remember their fucking names now. We have Reese and we have Pfeiffer. And apparently this is one of those movies where to add to the fucking realism, they do everybody's character name is their actual name in real life, just so, you know, we get some realism in this fucking ghost movie. So Pfeiffer's the one that's really, really passionate about theater and really, really into it. And this dude is Reese's friend, I guess. Everybody seems to fucking hate each other in this movie, but also be friends. I don't know, we'll go into that farther. But the first thing I want to acknowledge is that he is filming Pfeiffer from this balcony seat. And she's very into theater. This is her passion. She's clearly doing nothing wrong right now, but being passionate about what she's doing. And she's really into it. And we hear the camera guy, obviously, over everything else, because his voice is right here. And he's saying, oh my god, she's so obnoxious. That's one of the first lines of the movie, is him calling Pfeiffer obnoxious. I would just like to note that throughout this entire scene, this guy does not shut the fuck up.
Nope.
The guy who does not shut the fuck up through this whole scene starts the scene by calling a character obnoxious. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe it's a bit of irony, or maybe he's self-aware. I really don't think that is the case. This guy, if you watch the whole movie, this fucking guy is not a self-aware type of guy. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, so the character's a piece of shit. Maybe he's supposed to be a piece of shit. But the thing is like, a lot of this movie is this guy going around insulting people. To the point that I think we're supposed to be laughing with him.
No.
I think that's the intention, and I don't understand why that would be. Because this was confusing. He's going around like backstage and shit. You know, it's only his job to film the play, but he's gonna walk around with his camera every fucking where. Even when he goes outside to fucking harass cheerleaders. He's walking around and he is insulting every single person involved in this production.
Yep.
I think they said no, I don't believe they did. Why it's his job, of all people, to film this.
He's the tech guy?
Because all he does, I'm sure in an entire school, there is more than this one fucking guy that knows how to handle a camera. I would certainly hope so.
Did it say something like he's the tech guy of the school or something like that? They bring that up a bunch. It's like, you're the tech guy after all.
Jesus. So, the screenwriter thought that was an explanation.
In this kind of movie it is, even though it's not.
The thing about it is, what happens is he's going backstage and he's insulting every single person, but it seems like the only people he hangs out with are the theater people. Yep. This is the only people we see him hanging out with, apart from his girlfriend, who just kind of follows him everywhere. That's her job. Kathy Lee Gifford's daughter, by the way. So, the thing about it is, we go in, and this is one of those movies, of course, this is every found footage movie, of course, where our character intros are him walking around with his camera filming mundane shit.
Yep.
That has no bearing on anything whatsoever, except to show us that pretty much every single person that goes to this school, except for the theater people, are pieces of shit. And the only thing that happens to the theater people, the only people who are kind of shown to be not pieces of shit, are treated like shit. So this is all just really, I mean, once again, maybe you can argue that's just high school life. This is a really fucking shitty high school. And I must have gone to the wrong one, because I never knew anybody like this, really. I mean, there were certainly tools and douchebags and shit, but none to this degree. And now, because this is one of those movies where he goes into a locker room, to film them in their underwear because prank bro, I guess. And it's one of those movies where every single person because generally you have that one jock that's a douchebag, right? That's kind of the normal thing that you have in movies. The way they play it up, we don't really see them anymore, so I don't even know what the point of this is. But this one scene serves to show us that pretty much every single dude on this football team is the jock. Every single one of them. And everybody's job in this movie, who is not in the theater group, is to make fun of everybody in the theater group. And that's all that happens at this school. Yeah. That's fucking it. And it takes us 20 minutes of him wandering around aimlessly to establish this. Despite the fact that we're only building this up to spend the whole movie with 4 characters. But we have to get to know that everybody in the school is a piece of shit. And that's just the way that it goes. And yes, he even terrorizes. He's one of those characters. This is the guy we're seeing the movie through. By the way, you'd think he'd have to be at least a little tolerable, but he's the kind of guy where he is so desperate to make this a found footage movie that he terrorizes this guy. He throws a fucking football at his face for no goddamn reason except to get laughs from his cheerleader friends. Now, the thing about it is, obviously the guy gets a little comeuppance. The guy plays a prank on him back. Yeah. So he doesn't just chase the guy to, antagonize him. He puts the camera down. He goes over, the prank happens, he gets hurt. He gets back up, the guy starts running. He comes back to pick up the camera and chase the guy with it.
That was great.
And then, what is this? Is it? That's it, that's all. It speaks for itself.
It really does.
And it's at this point, in this scene actually, the whole point of this scene actually, is to set up one thing. This whole story is hinged on one thing, quite literally. The whole movie happens because of a broken door. The whole reason he gets this plan to ruin the play is that he discovers that there is a door that's broken in the school that doesn't lock. It's a door to the outside, to the outside in, and it doesn't lock. Now, and that's how they get into the school at night. Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe some schools don't give a shit, but in my experience, I have never once seen a school that would just kind of leave, that would just know that a door is broken. He says, dude, this door is broken, and the girl says, yeah, everybody knows the door is broken. That would include the staff and the maintenance people and all that shit. I cannot think of one single school that I have ever known that would just kind of say, oh, that door doesn't lock, fuck it. They would at least do some kind of makeshift thing with a chain or fucking anything to at least shut the door at night. But no, the whole plot hinges on the fact that this school has a door that does not lock and nobody gives a fuck. Anybody can just walk into this school in the middle of the night. So that's what that is. And now, let's talk about Reese a little more, because I think he's kind of somewhat supposed to be the hero of this story. And if that is the case, I would like you to listen to some of Reese's personality traits.
Oh, God.
Here's the thing. Reese and Pfeiffer are doing this play, and Reese is not really into the whole play thing. So I think this is actually never really talked about openly, but I'm guessing we're hinting at the fact that Reese is only doing the play so he can be Pfeiffer's romantic interest.
Yep.
Now, if he's not into the play, I'm not sure how he got the fucking lead role, but forget it. So the thing about it is, he acts like he doesn't like the play stuff, and, everybody likes to make fun of Pfeiffer because she's really, really into it. She's being all Tracy Flick in the class.
Pretty much.
And then, the camera dude catches him in appearance only. Did the camera guy remind you of Will? Just in appearance only.
Just a bit.
Okay, so the thing about it is, he catches Reese writing in his notebook. He's writing little hearts and little love things about Pfeiffer. So clearly he's got a thing for her. Yeah. And he really likes her, too. But then we progress, and for some reason, this camera guy has an unhealthy obsession with this play failing. I have no idea. He keeps saying it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. He keeps fucking saying it's embarrassing. I'm guessing he's referring to the whole Charlie accidentally got on thing. I don't know, but that's all. He just keeps saying it over and over again, but that in itself is his reasoning for having this really, really unhealthy obsession with making sure that this play does not happen. Just because he does not like the theater group, I guess. That's the only thing I gather from his character, was he fucking hates the theater group, so he wants to sabotage.
Oh, look, the emasculation of our football players.
So what happens here is, he gets this plan, and he takes it to Reese and his girlfriend, and he says, what we're going to do is we're going to go through that unlocked door, and we're going to come in here and we're going to tear apart the set, and they're going to be all sad when they come in and see that it's ruined, and then they're not going to do the play, and then it won't happen, and that'll be awesome, right? And Reese is kind of like, but that's kind of sucks. I'm kind of supposed to be the hero here, so I got to kind of try to talk you out of it before you talk me into it. That's it. That's how this game's fucking played. So that's not actual dialogue, but that's the way it works.
Close enough.
So what he says, how he convinces Reese is, you're gonna walk in here, the set's gonna be destroyed, Pfeiffer is going to be heartbroken, and you can comfort her. And then Reese says, oh my god, let's do this. The whole reason Pfeiffer drives everybody crazy is because she is so passionate about putting this play on. And Reese we're quite under the impression that Reese's feelings for her are so sincere. I mean, he writes about her in his notebook around hearts. So, his plan is to go in here with his douchebag friend and sabotage this play and intentionally ruin her dream of making this play. And that is who we have to root for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright. So, now what happens here is, it's basically one of those things where you almost kind of have to wonder if the makers, the writers and directors here are two dudes, if it was their idea to get you to hate everybody so you take joy in watching them die. And that, if that's your excuse for making all the characters shitty, it's a little sadistic.
Just a tad.
But also, makes this whole fucking thing pointless. There's really nothing, like, I don't know. I have no idea if we're supposed to like Pfeiffer or not. Because everybody in the movie is trying to build her up as the annoying, obnoxious person. And they're kind of building up the dudes here as the funny guys that insult everybody. And it's never made clear if we're supposed to laugh with them or not. Because here's the thing. We focus on this so much. We're seeing the movie through his eyes, and he does not shut the fuck up about how much everybody fucking sucks except for him. If we're not supposed to be laughing with him, what are we supposed to be doing? Because we have no other option because we're following the movie through his eyes. So, I'm totally lost here of what we're even supposed to be fucking doing. And this is before all the horror shit happens. Now, when that shit starts happening, it can only get worse, right? Well, here's the thing. We're breaking fucking rules again. Once again, the whole point... The whole point of a found footage movie is to, number one, add realism to make it feel like you're actually watching it. And once again, that's one of the whole reasons you make the character names the actual character names. But why? Why do you add things on the soundtrack that should not be there in real life? When you see the ghost, okay? Do just loud noises follow him? Do just things kind of happen? And it's one of those movies where there's a lot of... Okay, here's the thing was... They realize you can't do the... Even the Paranormal Activity movies know this. Those movies aren't actually guilty of this, that I remember. Maybe they do something like this, I don't know, but I don't remember so. Where we can't do the gradual build-up. We can't do the whole... Just kind of... Okay, the following mundane things, you know... It can't be something to kind of be like a slow burn until you get to that stuff that's in other movies scary. But the thing about it is, very few other movies I should specify. But this movie already knows immediately that it's a horror movie. It does not want to set a tone to where you kind of get comfortable with the characters and kind of forget. You get so involved in their realism, you kind of forget that you're watching a horror movie before the shit happens. Which really, really improves an impact. But this movie does not want you to forget that you're watching a horror movie when it's not doing the horror shit yet. So, we have a lovely scene where douchebag guy has set the camera up in his bedroom, and it just sits there for a really fucking long time before he pops into view and tries to scare the shit out of the audience. Mind you, he is alone in his bedroom doing this for nobody! Once again, I don't even have, like... I can't even, like, elaborate on that. It just fucking speaks for itself. This shit is fucking senseless. But, once again, this is before it even turns into a horror movie. So, should we go ahead and skip to when ghost shit actually starts happening?
Go ahead.
Okay. The thing about it, let's see. It's one of those movies where... We have a lot of shit that jumps out, and the way they handle this, because we're doing found footage, is the really obvious camera angles. Because you've got to do the thing where you don't really have you don't have the score going on. You can totally make loud noises when shit appears that aren't in any way coming from anything in the vicinity of anything. But you can't do the soundtrack. So, you can't have the music that builds and builds and then stops silently, and then you just wait for something to happen. So, to make it really, really obvious, because that's apparently the objective here, is to make the incoming scares as obvious as possible, you do the really obvious camera angles, where you turn to something and nothing is there, and then you turn to other shit until you do an entire 380 for some reason. There are so many scenes in this movie where if we saw them from not the first person point of view, people would just be spinning in fucking circles waiting to see ghosts appear from where they first set the camera. That happens so many times. Good God. This movie is 80 minutes, and there is a shitload of we didn't have enough shit to sustain the runtime. The very, very short, undemanding runtime. So, we have a lot of empty hallways and wandering around and fucking nothingness. Going from normal to night vision to the red lights. Just doing nothing until somebody's attacked. Or something not scary, not supposed to be scary happens, and, you know, like breaking glass or just doing random shit that makes a shitload of excess noise for no reason. Now, I still want to know what was causing the noise whenever Charlie would appear. There's just... they say his weapon's a noose, but I'm under the impression he walks around with really loud pots and pans and just hits them against shit as he walks around. Now, the thing about it is, let me talk about that real quick before we go into more of the dumb shit this movie actually does. I didn't see the trailers, obviously, but I still heard a lot about the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole, they did, like, something about putting two pencils together or something, and but it was some thing or something. Some, like, YouTube fad or something. Which was apparently it was like Charlie was supposed to make them move or something. And then I heard that one of the actual taglines for this movie was, like, Freddy has his glove, Jason has his machete, Charlie has his noose. Well, here's the thing about it. When Wes Craven made A Nightmare on Elm Street, when he wrote that script, he had, like, a lot of, like, you know, personal demons and, like, nightmares and shit. And, you know, Freddy Krueger was actually the name of his, like, high school bully or something. And he was setting out to make a scary movie.
Yeah.
And one of the big reasons I imagine that movie was so successful was because I don't know that I've ever actually seen a trailer from the 80s for Nightmare on Elm Street, but I'm going to take a wild guess and say that that trailer did not consist of a voiceover or text telling the audience, you will remember Freddy's glove. Freddy's glove will become legendary and iconic in horror movies. This will happen because I am telling you so. You don't, like, kind of set out to do that shit. Over half of the time, I hate to break it to people who are, like, really, really setting out for greatness in this kind of way. 90% of the time, iconic things don't set out to be iconic.
Yep.
They just do what they have to do, and people take to it naturally. And that's what makes them what they are. People don't... Because here's what happens. It'll probably... Given with the way audiences are nowadays, yeah, you'll probably get away with it for about a week. Because what'll happen is people know Freddy and his glove, obviously. People know Jason and his machete and stuff like that. But they will watch the movie, and they will see Charlie with his noose, and they will watch it, and they will go, oh my god, this is like legendary horror stuff. I'm watching legendary shit in the making. This noose is going to be the big thing now. But there's going to be Halloween costumes and shit. In a week, the people that you hooked to actually say that will have forgotten they've seen this movie.
Yeah.
There will be something else. Fucking Sinister comes out next month.
Yeah, exactly. That promotion's phenomenal.
Bagul will make people forget about Charlie. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he will.
But the thing about it is,
And they've done this marketing before.
It's just really, really fucking irritating when they try so hard to set out to make themselves iconic. That's really, really not how it works. I know it probably seems that way, but really, really think about it. That is not the way, especially in the horror genre. You really, really have to make an iconic horror movie almost by accident.
Hatchet comes to mind. That's another thing that people seem to really love.
I had never actually watched those.
They did this promotion with Hatchet before. Like, you know Freddy, you know Jason, now Victor Crowley. So, the Gallows stole that too.
I can't say that. Well, I'm pretty sure they just kind of... It's just a bunch of tryhards making a movie really, really cheaply. That's all it is. And there's this, and that's another thing, is that's kind of like, I'm really not quite sure what this did. When you have movies like, what are some of the shitty found footage movies? There's stuff like Sex Tape and Absence, the one with the aliens. Mm-hmm. I'm not quite sure what the difference is, where stuff like that gets, like, those really shit. I mean, they deserve it. They deserve less. They deserve to not exist, but they go, like, straight to DVD, and then nobody fucking sees them. Nobody talks about them. But then you have movies like this that get, like, full-on theatrical releases. Mm-hmm. Where, like... I'm just having trouble following where Warner Brothers and New Line, those are big fucking names for a movie like this.
Yeah.
What did Warner Brothers and New Line see in a movie like this, where movies like Sex Tape and Absence didn't get to their attention? Because it's the same bullshit. But, you know, sometimes people just get fucking lucky. That's all. That's the only way movies like this get made, is people just get fucking lucky. And it's just a bunch of, like... And the reason so many found footage horror movies happen now is because people know that it's really, really fucking cheap to do. And if you're lucky, they will have popularity.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time they do. Like, while there are a lot of them, I think there are more theatrically released ones than ones that are just fucking dumped into straight-to-DVD land. I don't know. There's too many to keep track of to actually make an assumption like that, but I'm just going to assume. Just fucking go with it. It doesn't matter. Now, what else do we have here? Well, the acting. It's really, really funny to me that... Well, first off, let me just kind of say real quick. I don't want to be, like, cruel or anything, because it's clear that these people aren't, like, you know, like, really experienced actors. This was just kind of them making a movie, and it just happened to be like, hey, Warner Brothers came across this. But it is kind of funny to me to watch this movie where it seemed like people... It's a movie about a theater group. So, you basically had to find the most unconvincing actors you possibly could, apparently, to play actors.
True.
Reese, dude, what the fuck were you doing? Because the thing about it is, I can kind of get by watching him to where when he was acting, he probably felt like it looked natural, but it's the director's jobs to watch it and say, dude, not like that. Because what happens here is, when Reese is supposed to be playing a convincing actor, he's not, and when he's supposed to be playing a scared human being, he's got the same over-the-top expression for everything. He does this weird thing with his eyebrows, and he has this constant, I just shit my pants look, even when nothing has really happened, and he just walks around like that all the time.
Oh my god.
Like, that's his same reaction to everything. Like, just a noise in the dark, or a scream in the dark, or actually seeing the fucking ghost before his eyes. It's the same, I shit myself expression. And it's really kind of funny. The scene when they're walking through and they've made Pfeiffer mad because she realizes he came here. What happens here is they realize now that they're locked in the school. And there's clearly something wrong because shit has already started happening. So what happens here is he's there, and then we see Pfeiffer and she sees what's going on and she's really, really upset with him. So she goes upstairs, starting to cry. Number one, she goes upstairs when shit's already clearly started going down. And number two, where is she going to cry? Is she going to her bedroom to slam the door? Because that's not where it is. Oh, I guess it's important to note at this point. Shyamalan got a hold of this movie at the last minute. Not literally, but yeah, there is one. We reach what's a relatively decent ending, but they have to tack on one more thing because that's just because this movie was holding us prisoner for a while.
Yeah.
So that there's like one or two scenes where that explains something. But there's still a whole lot of shit that's the rest of the movie, like an hour and 18 minutes of this movie.
I don't like the ending because they had a great ending and they could have left it there and it might have been tolerable that way.
But now, another thing here is, let's see, there's, well yeah, I just want to bring up one thing real quick. When you are trying to make a movie strictly for realism, because the movie starts off with the 1993 video camera footage of Charlie actually dying. And then everything is the found footage thing where everybody's supposed to be acting natural. Yeah. I don't know what that was, but it sure as shit was not what they were looking for. Now, you can put ghosts in this movie. You can put unrealistic relationships in this movie. How the guy that holds the camera in this movie got a cheerleader, I'm not quite sure. Or anybody at all, I don't know. But, you know, well, you can kind of say well, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is, if you are going to make a movie that is based in realism, I guess, you can say, you know, this story is real and there is a ghost in it that hangs people. Okay, that's fine. And you can throw in all the other shit that happens in this movie. Okay. But what I cannot forgive is trying to base this movie in realism as much as you can to make it feel as real as possible and tell me that you can break the lock on a locker with one of those plastic trophies.
Yeah, no lie.
That is the one thing that I refuse to believe.
Yeah, I agree
that
completely.
happens. Oh, God. So, is that... I want to be done with this. Are we about done? I think I had to write down so much here. I will say that this... There is one thing that kind of stuck out about this movie. And that is, this was, it being what it is, it probably has a lot of mixed feelings, just for people who are fucking, you know, high and mighty about this bullshit. But, when you have a really, really awesome cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit to use to market this movie of all movies, what a fucking waste.
That got me excited for the movie, just hearing that cover.
I know, because I'm not looking at the trailers, I'm looking at the floor or shutting my eyes. The trailer for this movie sounded awesome.
Oh my god, I know it did, and the visuals they picked worked perfectly. When you watch the movie, there's all that.
I mean, I know it's
stuff.
it's a bit of a ridiculous pun, but still, it kind of worked in strictly a marketing aspect. But you know, that's the part that kind of worked. When you throw in your "Hey, we're telling you we're gonna be iconic" thing, just go fuck yourself. So I think that's all the real big bullshit.
There's a twist, but it's not something that's really explained.
Yeah.
Context clues.
When you saw,
basically,
she was.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, she was that.
Okay. That's what you're talking about. All right.
Okay. Our last movie.
Wow.
Is
we haven't done one of those in a while.
What?
You haven't done a 30-minute bashing of a movie in a while.
Oh, God. Okay, well, we might have a second one right in a row here, but I'll try to keep it short.
Oh, God.
Our last movie is Selfless. That is self/less. So, we begin, and it's worth noting, this is Tarsum's new movie. Let me tell you about Tarsum's filmography. He did The Cell, which I kind of liked when I saw it, but it's one of those movies where I don't know I'd like it if I saw it again. So I'm just going to leave it there. I believe he did Immortals, which is a piece of shit.
Yeah, it is.
And he did Mirror Mirror, which was a strange choice for him, but an even bigger piece of shit. Apparently, he has a movie called The Fall that a lot of people love. I haven't seen it, but I know a lot of people really, really love it, so I should probably look into that. But so far, his name on a movie is not the least bit promising. So, I really did not know what to expect going into this because it was a movie with his name on it that appeared to be some sci-fi thriller. I don't know. It doesn't matter now in this case that I don't watch trailers because there was like one for this, I think, and I really don't know. There were 11 people in there with us last night when we saw this. Yeah, it's weird. And that was really surprising to me because I didn't realize that 11 people even knew this movie existed. But apparently some people do, I guess. There were a couple of girls in front of us who were clearly like Ryan Reynolds fans, and that was pretty much the only reason they were there. So, those people that tried to say that Ryan Reynolds is not a box office draw, he is for at least 2 people. Okay, so maybe because they realized that their other options were minions and the gallows, and they just said, "Fuck it, it's a lose." So they pulled one out of a hat, I guess. So it begins with Ben Kingsley, and we have Ben Kingsley sitting at a table with Victor Garber.
Yeah, I know.
Sounds great, right?
Yeah.
But then the movie starts happening immediately. And we learn that Kingsley is dying quickly. He has like 6 months. So we kind of go through his really depressing life. He's got the daughter. He's got the really cliche father-daughter relationship where he goes to her and he's trying to make amends. And he's like, hey, let's go get sundaes. And she's all, I liked sundaes when I was like 8.
I'm a vegetarian now.
That's exact dialogue.
Yeah.
The whole I like Sundays when I was 8 thing. Everybody fucking loves Sundays at all ages. Why is that?
That's right.
But the thing about it is that's not a concern though. She's basically saying, you neglected me, fuck you.
Yeah.
Because he's not telling anybody that he's actually dying except for Victor Garber. So I can fight I can fight all my secrets into Victor Garber too. He's just really seems trustworthy.
He really does.
Something
about him.
Yeah. So he basically has like a Matthew Good has a process that is basically this reverse heaven can wait kind of thing, where instead of the young guy going into the old guy's body, we have Kingsley actually transferring his conscience over to this body that is Ryan Reynolds, and he is resurrected and he is younger. And Matthew Good keeps using the word immortal.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of misleading because it's a human body. We learn later you can keep transferring if you want to, but I just thought him specifically saying transferring to Ryan Reynolds will make you immortal just seemed kind of off, but that's basically how he made it. So the thing about it is the movie goes from there, and what has happened so far is now. I was talking just now with the Gallows about it wanted to make sure you knew you were in a horror movie, so it did horror shit before it was actually a horror movie. This movie does not take that approach, but there's also kind of a problem going on. I know it sounds like a lose-lose situation, but there are, decent ways to do this. It's just no movies this week fucking found it. So, you kind of have... There's still... The problem is the tone issue. Like, you can kind of set a tone and then do something totally different from what you set up and make it work. Like, the first movie that always comes to mind, obviously, is From Dusk Till Dawn. But there was something about that movie that still relatively... It didn't... I don't know. Something... I'm trying to say how Tarantino did something right. It's like, trying to say... I don't know. It's not worth questioning. It's great because it is. But the thing about it is... There's a really weird tone going on here. Because it's this really depressing story for about 20 minutes about Ben Kingsley dying of cancer. I think it's cancer he has. I don't know if they specify. I'm sure they specified it.
Yeah, it's cancer.
And then it goes into a sci-fi thing where we go into Matthew Good's whole process about transferring and shit like that. And then once he becomes Ryan Reynolds, we get kind of like a Limitless vibe.
Yep.
And then it's an action movie. Until the end.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's kind of fighting with itself over what it's even gonna be. It's kind of like there's 4 children here fighting over which one's gonna be the leader. And eventually they get to a point to where one kind of takes over, and then it goes from there. And we have to do the thing where when it really, really, obviously takes off and shows its conflict. The conflict is the fact that I don't really know what's a spoiler here. I still think this is kind of the basic plot. The Ryan Reynolds body was actually, obviously, somebody's body before they died.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's seeing glimpses of his past life. So, what happens here is he has I think I've said that like 3 or 4 times now in this one review because I don't know where the fuck it's going. he has the whole montage where he's got the embarrassment of riches, and he gets to, you know, walk around the house and do the, oh my god, I've got fucking everything, my life's awesome, I've got the car, girls want to hang out with me, I hang out with Derek Luke, everything's great. So, I'm probably not going to have a voice by the end of this. So what happens is he's got this great, magnificent life that he paid a lot of money to Matthew Good to have. But for some reason that we never learn from his character prior to this is that once he realizes that the Ryan Reynolds body has a past life, instead of saying, sucks to be that guy, the dude must have died, the end, he decides to fucking investigate. To figure out about this body's past life. There's really nothing that drives him to this. There's a suggestion that the visions of the little girl he's seeing make him want to make up for not being there for his own daughter, which I'm sure is the only reason that plot exists. But really, and I know we wouldn't have a movie without him doing this, but it just does not seem like a logical way to get your plot going. It just kind of seems like people doing things that you probably wouldn't do just so the plot can advance. Mm-hmm. And that's just something pretty much everybody does when you really, really shouldn't. But it's so commonplace now, people just say, oh, that'll be alright, and just write it down and let it go. So, and the reason these come on is that he has to, like, take pills, and when he doesn't take the pills, he hallucinates, but when he's hallucinating, he's actually seeing the visions from his old life. And this is when the real tarsomness of it comes in. Because what we have, I understand that he is trying to kind of, the whole thing is kind of meant to be a bit disorienting because it is for the character, but there is a whole lot of disorientation going on here. More so than an audience really shouldn't, or even when you're trying to get them to understand what the character is going through. Because Tarsom's approach here is to have really, really flashy images, like a fucking strobe light, in your face for long periods of time, while he's trying to figure out what he's looking at. Which is extremely unpleasant when it's done over and over and over again. And on top of that, we have a montage here that's an awful lot like... Remember the montage in Looper? When he goes to the diner and he gets the coffee and then he goes to work and then he comes home. He gets paid and then he goes home, he drops the drugs, he goes out clubbing, and we get the cycle. Mm-hmm. This movie tries to do that montage and fails miserably because it's kind of also done in the flashy image way. And it just looks really, really fucking sloppy. Like the editor just kind of knew the layout of the scenes here, and then just kind of pushed them together, and then copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. And it looks like fucking shit. Like a lot of the movie does. So, it really has... It has no intention of having any kind of slickness to it. Or any kind of, you know, reasonable flow to it. It's all just kind of jumbled here together and doesn't really care. It doesn't care what kind of tone it has, and it doesn't care if it's, you know, visually appealing to an audience. Which is really funny because that's often the kind of thing that Tarsom actually gets acclaim for, are his visuals. I do not know what the fuck happened here, but... And now, I want you to keep this in mind. This is Ben Kingsley inside Ryan Reynolds' body, okay? And we get to know Ben Kingsley for about 20 minutes for the whole setup. And I gotta tell you, he's really, really Kingsley-like. He's very much a Ben Kingsley character.
Yeah.
So, what I don't understand is once he has transferred to Ryan Reynolds' body, he has excellent fighting skills, impeccable gunfire skills. He basically becomes a warrior of sorts when necessary. He can get into hand-to-hand combat and everything. And there's even a scene where you'll notice in a lot of his movies, there are moments where the Ryan Reynolds character just takes time to stop and be charming. And it feels an awful lot like it's just Ryan Reynolds improving. There is one of those scenes. Now, I'm sitting here trying to visualize Ben Kingsley in the pool with that girl acting like improving Ryan Reynolds. Once again, not a vibe I was getting from that original character at all. Now, mind you, we only saw him when he was 6 months away from death and dying, but still, I don't think that's the kind of character he was supposed to be, but you know what? Just let Ryan Reynolds do his thing. That's why you're fucking hire him, apparently. That makes it sound like I don't like him, but I think when he's in comedies, he's really well. There are some dramatic parts that he does really well. But when you put him in, it seems like even drama, it's fine. It's putting him in action movies specifically, especially as a lead. Like when he's not there the whole time, like in Smokin' Aces, that's fine. But when you have movies like Safe House and this, and a couple of movies I've probably long forgotten, this not, I don't know, he doesn't really speak to me in that way, I guess. And for a lot of people, because generally the action movies and dramatic parts that he's the star of either don't have really big releases, or they do the kind of box office this movie will do.
Yeah, this will be gone within theaters within 2 weeks.
Like, people have already pretty much forgotten Safe House.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how much quicker it would have been forgotten if Denzel wasn't in it?
Oh, wow.
It would have vanished off the face of the earth in a week if Denzel wasn't in it. With his weird hair.
You got great performances like Buried that a lot of people didn't get a chance to see.
Now, let's, the acting is kind of off. That opening scene alone, like, before we went in, I was telling you I was getting paranoia vibes. That opening scene with Kingsley and Garber was giving me real paranoia vibes.
Yeah.
That guy that came in and had his little tantrum, and I was like, oh, this is the kind of acting it's going to be in. This would be great.
We were worried it was going to be like Paranoia 2.
So the thing about it was, there it is again. It's just when I get lost, I need to find my way back. Let's actually, okay. Not all of the acting is terrible, but nobody really cares about acting in this movie. Probably because they read the script and they needed some money. That's probably why they didn't. But you look at scenes like any scene with Matthew Good. Matthew Good gives the exact same performance, I swear to God. The exact same performance in this movie that he gave in Watchmen.
Yep.
Like, exactly the same. Even when he's going through all his plans and everything, it's the exact same tones and deliveries and everything. And he has a line in this movie that is so funny for a couple of reasons. You can probably think of more. He's trying to explain to Ryan Reynolds why this is a good idea, doing things this way. Because we learned that Matthew Good may or may not be a character we saw before earlier in the movie. And he talks about how this will stop all the geniuses from dying. In a way, like, the way he puts it is, the people who could have gone on to do even greater things and totally and completely change the world in gigantic ways had their bodies not failed them. And his examples, in this exact order, are Edison, Einstein, Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
That's his whole list. Number one, from what a lot of people have said about Steve Jobs, I'm going to guess that the line just already doesn't work. And secondly, you will notice, throughout this movie, Ryan Reynolds has a certain possession that he does not go anywhere without. And he uses in almost every single scene. And I am, of course, talking about an Apple laptop.
Yep.
With the logo clear as day, pointed to the camera every single time. I don't know what kind of deals this movie was making, but I I'm going to assume that the Steve Jobs line was not in there before sponsors and shit got into this movie. Either it stopped at Edison and Einstein, or there was a third name in there that got replaced.
Either one could be possible.
So, and I'm sure there's a ton of them you can put in there too, but that's how that goes. They try to throw in moral dilemmas into the storyline with there's spoilery to say, but they use the setup. When you have this setup, there are a lot of interesting things you can do with it. In this movie, it seemed like kind of tried. Like they knew they had to do more than one thing than just the general setup with it because of how, vast the, openness of ideas could be. But by then, it really, really doesn't matter, the whole thing. And even when it's revealed, there's really not a whole lot of time put into it. It just kind of is. And then we just leave it at that and go to another scene, and we never talk about it again. And speaking of the moral dilemmas, there's a couple more things. Okay, first off, I was kind of worried about the girl for a second. I kind of thought that she's not a bad character, but if in the event that you see this, you might be worried that she's that kind of child character. Because the very first time we see her, she has to explain to the mother has to explain to the daughter that her dad is back, because it's Ryan Reynolds, obviously. Mm-hmm. And once it's explained to her and she sees Ryan Reynolds, she basically says that she knew that he wasn't dead the whole time. She just had a feeling about it. And she tried to tell her mom that he wasn't dead. So our introduction to this girl is her saying, I knew it, over and over again, until she gets from the schoolyard into Ryan Reynolds' arms. And she says, I knew it, the entire time she's on her journey. But this journey consists of having to go all the way around the schoolyard, down this sidewalk here, and then down another sidewalk to get to him. And she never stops saying the whole time.
It's true.
It's like the director was playing a prank on her or something. It's like, don't say it until you get to Ryan. Just keep saying it, but you have to go all the way around. But no, she's not that kind of character. She's fine. But there were two things here that really, really bothered me. That just took up fucking time and made no goddamn sense. Let's start with this character. I don't know how spoilery this is. There is a character in this movie that will not die. But here's the thing about it. Is obviously we have this regeneration plot where you can take your shitty ass body and have your mind transferred to a better body. You can be Ryan Reynolds if you want to. We have this henchman of Matthew Good's. And there's a fight that goes on. And we realize that in this new body, Ryan Reynolds has no problem killing people. He will beat the shit out of them. He will snap their necks. He will shoot them. He will set them on fire.
That
literally.
was great.
He will do anything. He will wipe out an entire army of dudes and then walk away from it and go, we gotta move. I can literally kill fucking anybody I come in contact with, but we have to keep running away. But this one henchman gets left for dead. He knows that he's alive. He sees him moving, even though he's probably on the verge of it. But everybody else has been killed. Fuck them. Cut to much later in the movie. This henchman is back in another body and ready to kick ass once again. And there's a big car chase scene. And every fucking buddy is killed. But this henchman is behind the wheel of his car after an accident, still moving and still alive. And Ryan Reynolds sees this, pointing a gun at him, and he fucking does it again! He just leaves him there! Knowing that he's alive after he's killed everybody else, knowing he can regenerate again. He did it twice!
Yep.
And that was only so it could pay off later. And there's no... But that was not... That would have not been in his thought process. it was a convenience later. Now, when we were talking about Terminator, I was talking about the scene where Reese gets all pissed. Fucking Reese won't go away. We get into this thing about Reese getting into the "you lied to me" fight with Sarah. There's kind of a similar scene in this, only it's a lot more illogical. What happens here is... Okay, look, Ryan Reynolds is in the house. I know, it's really fucking stupid that the plot even goes in this direction, but like I said, we wouldn't have a movie if he didn't. So, whatever. But he is in the house of the woman who is the wife of the dude that he once was. And she comes in with a gun and is like, "Oh, intruder," because he's turned around. And then he turns around and says, you know, like, "I am Ryan Reynolds, behold." And
I'm Spartacus.
She has the she has the freak out, obviously, because she thought he was dead, and he's just back at the house with just nothing to, like, he has no idea what's going on. So she breaks down. So the only thing he doesn't even really do it by choice. Like, this is really not, like, even put yourself in his position. How, with the way she's reacting, she's seeing her dead husband, and she's having the appropriate reaction. And so, in an actual logical brain, he kind of does the right thing. How in God's name do you just up and tell somebody in this situation, "No, I'm not your husband"? It's probably not going to work that way. So he just kind of goes with it. And he doesn't really immediately play off that he is him. He just kind of says, "Oh shit." He's just kind of in a "oh shit, what do I do" situation. And then they bring the daughter into it, like, immediately. And so he can't at all say to the daughter, "Yeah, I'm totally in your dad's body, but I'm not him. Just so you know, don't get confused." So, there's only so much he can do in this scenario. But, wouldn't you know it, we have to have the fight scene where he breaks down and tells her, "I'm not your husband, I'm just a dude in his body." And the screenwriters could not figure out how to do this, so we don't even hear the dialogue. We see the scene from the child's point of view in the car from a distance while they're outside, like, across a parking lot, and we see it in silence. The writers had no idea how to fucking explain this. So, of course, that leads us to the moment where she's pissed off at him because of the whole "you pretended to be my husband" thing. I just don't understand how there was really any other way to go about that. Because surely she would have to figure out how she would have reacted if his immediate response was, "Yeah, I know I'm totally your husband, but I'm totally not." Is that what she wanted from the get-go? So, really what I'm trying to say is, there's really not a whole lot of ways to take the concept in the direction they did and make it work. So, it's their fault from the beginning to even take the movie in this direction. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's basically its biggest problem. So, there's totally interesting things you can do with this concept, and this movie doesn't really know any of them. It has, like, really, really vague ideas of them, but has absolutely no interest on acting on them. And basically making the most average thing they possibly can. And it's only average when it's not embarrassing. So, that's, yeah.
That's what we've got for this week.
What
Finally.
a wonderful week.
Well, as always, before we go any further, we're going to get a star amount for everything. Minions.
2.
The Gallows.
1.
Selfless.
1.5.
1.5. Wow. Oh, AJ hates everything, I guess.
And next week, we have a Judd Apatow movie.
Yeah. Trainwreck and Ant-Man is next week, and don't forget to stay tuned this weekend to Gaming with Ash on Saturday. Brony Versus on Sunday. Your cryptic comment is Anchorman. and Monday will be our final of 3 half-year videos, this time focusing on the most anticipated films of 2015's the duration of the rest of the year. And I promise you, when I talk about Minions or Despicable Me, I will not call him Drew ever again. No idea why I did that numerous times in this video. So, that being said, more Horror Nights contents comes at God's long day. Horror Nights content will come as soon as we get it, and you can look forward to those videos very soon. And AJ, any parting words?